The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. The IRT New Zealand Cup is in its 120th year. Since the turn of the century, we've celebrated the 100th running of the great race.
It's just an excuse. El Serwin coming late is Jack Cade along the end of it. Just an excuse is the glorious Centurion.
Just an Excuse went back-to-back in 2003-4, as did the Aussie Raider Flashing Red.
Flashing Red's coming back on the inside. Tribute in the middle. They go to the line. Flashing Red. What a win. The 10-year-olds won it.
Although he was trained by two Cantabrians, Timothy Butt and Philip Anderson. After he went back-to-back, it was the turn of the monkey.
He hit the lead, Monkey King. Ricky May's going to win another New Zealand Cup. You played again, Sam. Monkey King will be smoking up in Sleepy Trip. Ricky May, he is a genius. And the little mayor of Methven went and parked him outside, smoking up, coming off the back. What an absolutely dominating performance by Monkey King.
Then we had a three-peat from the King of Addington, Terror to
On the eye
Love.
for a few strides. Terror to Love galloped. Terror to Love's up in the air at the start.
Just the third horse to win 3 in a row, joining Indianapolis and False Step.
A length and a half over Terror to Love. He's worked forward to second and goes up to have a look for the lead, Ricky. And Mark Purdon's going to hand up. It is still Terror to Love. He's going to do it. It is the greatest cup win of all time. Terror to Love beat Fly Like an Eagle. And Chris and me, the Gold Cup of Ricky May has won the greatest race you will ever see.
In 2015, it was an Australian victory again with Arden Rooney and the first ever female winning driver, Kieran Manning.
Smolder is trying hard. It's still Arden Rooney kicking, and the goal from Great Western creates history. Arden Rooney beats Smolder and Mosdale Connor. Karen will be all smiles, and why wouldn't she be?
In 2016-17, the race went to a new level when Lazarus prevailed, winning his first cup in a world record time of 3:53.1.
Get Nasser on the phone. He is in another orbit. Lazarus does it again. Lazarus beat Jack's Legend, Tiger Tara and Maxim. He did it by 10 lengths last year. It won't be as big this year. It was equally as dominant. And for Mark Purdon to have two looks over the right shoulder like that at the 400-metre mark is extremely rare.
And in the last two runnings of the great race, it's been copy that going back-to-back for driver Blair Orange, who's won 3 out of the last 4 IRT New Zealand Cups.
Copy that, he's back to defend his title, and he's done it. Copy that, won the cup by a length from Majestic Cruiser.
Who will it be in 2023? Well, if that doesn't get you excited about the IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup on Tuesday, Michael Guerin, I don't know what will. The 120th running of the great race is pretty close.
Yeah, hi Greg. Big hi to everybody watching in both New Zealand and Australia, or further afield. You're right, it's going to be a great race, and the added dimension, the huge dimension, the dimension we can't get away from for our conversations for this show and all the way through to around about 5:25 on Tuesday, is the Australian. Adds so much to the race, Swayze being here, Greg, because if he wasn't, the whole conversation will be dominated by a Akuta. We now have Trans-Tasman rivalry, we have Inter-Island rivalry, and we have that little bit of doubt, and that's always really good in a big harness race. I'm looking forward to it. It has the potential to be a classic New Zealand Cup. Greg will try and unpick some of those things to give punters a fair shot against the bookies come Tuesday.
Yeah, let's start with the market, Michael. Of course, changed slightly when the barriers came out on Wednesday. The two big guns, though, drawing the second row. So remaining at the top of the market is Akuta, $2.20. Slight move for Swayze, $3.50 into $3.20. Then you're getting out to Old Town Road around $8. And of course, Republican Party, a similar price. Let's leave the market for now and get involved with the favourite, Akuta. He's been the dominant force, not only in the Ashburton Flying Stakes, but also in the Alabar Kaikoura Cup. This was him in front this day in the hands of Olivia Thornley. We'll get Matt Cross to bring them home and then hear from master co-trainer and driver Mark Purden.
He's 2 lengths clear from Old Town Road and Krug. It's Akuta's Kaikoura Cup. Akuta by 2.5. Beat Old Town Road and Krug. Third across was Mossdale Ben, then Kango. Next in Self Assured from He's a Sport.
Mark, in terms of a cup preparation with Akuta, just about couldn't have gone any better.
No, it couldn't have, Greg. It's always nice to get about 4 runs under their belt, and you know he's done that, but he's really been impressive, particularly his last couple.
Well, you've been sitting on the sideline watching him go. How's that been as a part owner, but also to watch the way that he has gone from one level to the next, and now clearly he's at his peak?
Yeah, well, right through his preparation, Greg, you could tell he'd just gone to another level, and you know, just watching him, Olivia's handled it terrific on both occasions, so I couldn't be happier that way. And of course, being in the barn here, I'm hands-on with him too, so know exactly where he is at this stage.
Barrier draw. Initial thoughts when that came out?
Yeah, well, disappointed, I suppose, but it's a starting point, and with Swayze on the second line too, it probably evens things up.
In terms of a build-up to a race like this, and if we go over the last 5 or 6 years, Mark, and obviously the Lazarus preparation was faultless as well, is that the sort of level you think you're at? Not necessarily comparing the horses, but in terms of the prep?
No, in terms of the prep, I'd say that's exactly the same, Greg, yeah.
And Mark, the other great thing about him is many of his biggest race wins, he hasn't done anything in the first half of the race.
No, that's right. Yeah. He's versatile. It's not to say that he couldn't, but he probably has looked more impressive when he's just, you know, been racing outside the leader and hasn't done the early work.
Who do you fear, Mark?
Obviously Swayze, and you know, 8 from 8, I think, for Jason Grimson. So you've got to respect him.
Michael, he's the winner of 16 races, and if he finishes in the top 4, he was 4th in this race last year, he'll go past $1 million before he's had 30 starts.
He's very much in the zone, and clearly, if it wasn't for Swayze, he might be $1.40, because I've seen nothing from any other New Zealand horse this year, not even just this campaign, this year, to suggest they can beat Akuta. Because the big 2 guns, Self Assured and Copy That, aren't here. So the big 3 in this country's become the big 1. Take Swayze and Akuta out of this conversation, and you have a field of horses who none of them have won a Grand Circuit race, or anything even close to a Grand Circuit race. Doesn't mean they're not going to at some stage, but they are not proven at the absolute highest level. He is. So we'll park Swayze for the meanwhile. We'll get to him in a second. But Akuta should beat all the other New Zealand horses, Greg. Second line doesn't bother me. When you go right back through his career, as mentioned in that interview, when he won the Harness Jewels, when he won the Derby at Addington last year, when he won the Auckland Cup, when he won the Taylor Mile, all of those races he wasn't involved in the early burn. Typical of the All-Stars, how they race these days. Got to head his steam up and just kept on coming, and was too strong in the second half of the race. We saw that also at Kaikoura and at Ashburton. So what we have is a horse who the second line draw won't bother him and his natural racing style. I doubt he'll be quick away in saying that, trying to imagine or work out scenarios for horses on second lines from a standing start is virtually impossible. What we've seen this spring is he will get away safely, more than likely, and he won't be quick, Greg. He should be somewhere in the back half of the field in the outer. The question then becomes, because we know if he's there against the New Zealand horses, he would work around, he'd get the front, and he'd win. So where, and this is the big question for everybody, until Tuesday. Does Swayze land? Is that in front of him or behind him? And bizarrely, Greg, for two horses drawn on the second line, where they land after 200 metres could decide this entire New Zealand Cup.
Yeah, well, I think the first half of the race, Michael, will be run very quickly. In fact, I'm picking they might be able to break a minute from a stand because so many of these horses will be looking to get to the markers first. Mark Purden's 28th drive in the race. He's won 6 times sitting in the cart, and of course, if he can win on Tuesday, joins Ricky May as the all-time champions of the race with 7 wins. His great rival, the Aussie Swayze. This is what he did at Menangle last start. In front for Cam Hart, dominating this field. Spirit of St. Louis was on his back, couldn't go with him. Jason Grimson is his trainer. He has won 8 races with this horse from 8 starts for his barn. He's in New Zealand, he's arrived. Let's have a look at him and what Jason thinks. Jason, welcome back to New Zealand. You bought, well, a horse that's in sublime form.
Yeah, that's right. He's going really good at the moment. He's in the right spot at the right time, and I think the 3200 metres is really going to suit him.
What did you make initially when the barrier draw came out? What were your first thoughts?
I didn't really know for a couple of hours. I was on the plane, and Brittany sent me through the list of where they all drew, and I guess drawing off the back line, you sort of out of any trouble early. Get away quite safe, and hopefully we can just get in front of Okuda at the start.
His performance last start at Menangle was off the charts, on the clock. How's he come through that and how's he travelled over?
Yeah, really good. He's quite bright. He's 8 up every night we've fed him, and yeah, he's travelled really good. And, yeah.
Jason, is he a one-trick pony? Does he have to lead, or in your mind, could he come off a wheel and be as potent?
He definitely could. I think he showed that in his stand-start trial. He got over 25A. I was on the leader and I was watching him, and he was doing it very easy. So he does have that high speed. It just the way he races, you can get up on the speed and just bully his way, and you can just keep running.
You went so close last year. The burning desire to win again an IRT New Zealand Cup, it's still clearly there.
Yeah, definitely. As soon as we got this horse, I knew just when I drove him, when he broke the track record at Albion Park, I knew straight away he's the perfect horse for the race. I went to pull him up afterwards, and he just wanted to keep running. So the trip's definitely not going to worry him, that's for sure.
And what about Cam Hart, your gun driver? He's in sublime form again. What sort of instructions do you talk about, or do you pretty much leave it up to him?
No, there's no instructions really. We get on pretty good, and we basically have the same thought going into most races. So I'll just leave it up to him. I don't put any pressure on him at all.
He's an impressive beast, as you could see there, Michael. He's racing in great form. He follows out Republican Party, and a couple out wider on that back row will be Okuda. Does that give Okuda an advantage? Before I get your thoughts on Swayze.
I have no idea. Trying to predict it standing starts from the second on is just pointless. Everybody thinks this follows out.
But being drawn down lower...
That doesn't help. That doesn't help because you have to stand a little bit longer, and there's more possibility of being claustrophobic because there's less places to go. I don't think one on the second line helps BD Joe. In saying that, the two could absolutely scream away. He jumps on its back and it works out beautifully. Just on the standing start, because this is important because it's your money and we want to give you the best advice possible. I have absolutely no idea whether Swayze's going to step away. I know Okuda will step away more than likely. Not great, but slow, but he'll be safe. I don't know with the other horse. We see lots of 2 and 3 horse trials in the north where I live, and we see them in Australia, and they are effectively useless to you. That doesn't mean he will step or it won't step. It just doesn't mean anything. So you are gambling on that with your money. If he gets away safely, say they're neutral and they end up next to each other back in the field, this horse, if he rolls to the front, will almost certainly win. Because I think Okuda's a better flat-out horse, but Swayze is a very free-running, long-striding horse, and while I think Okuda has a slightly better chance of sitting parked outside Swayze and beating him, maybe 60-40, reverse that if Swayze is to sit parked outside him, I still don't think it will happen. So if he does step away, and that's the if you're betting on, and he rolls to the front, I think he'll win. But He doesn't have to roll to the front to win, because while his signature victory, the race you showed there at Menangle was good, but the signature victory was the Blacks Are Fake, where he led and leaped to fame, couldn't sit parked outside him and beat him. He still has been able to come from off the speed in quite a few runs, and 2 starts ago when he won at Menangle, he sat parked and won very easily. So he doesn't have to lead to win this race. He doesn't have to win that initial battle. Cam Hart is a future Hall of Famer. I talk to him probably every week. I see him drive every week because I do a lot of Menangle work, and he absolutely gets it. He's a mini Dex or a mini Zach Butcher. He's that good, so there's no issues there. So then you get to Grimson. Well, he has come to Australia now, to New Zealand, 2 or 3 times, and every time he's come here, Majestic Cruiser, coming for both, winning the Messenger, bringing it for the Cup last year. The horses have performed to their Australian level. So you don't worry that he doesn't know what he's doing, that he can't travel, that he doesn't have all his systems in place to replicate the Australian form into New Zealand. So we are going to, we expect, get the Australian version of Swayze. So that ticks an awful lot of boxes. With Jason Grimson, because he has had enormous improvement in some horses, like Bonsell Benjamin and like Majestic Cruiser, you say, well, okay, how good was this horse before? Is Swayze that good, or has he just got it so fit it's racing out of its skin? Swayze was a better horse than those horses. He was actually a really good 2-year-old and a really good 3-year-old, and he had that sort of 6-month form slump before Jason got him. But before that, he was a superior horse to those other horses. So if he's now improved him, you're getting a very good product, which is improved and has a great driver from a stable who know how to do what they are attempting to do. All of that put together, because again, some of you don't care, you just want to back a winner. I think they're comparable chances of winning, almost flip of a coin. And Greg, the New Zealand TAB, as we record this, are giving you a boost of $4 for Swayze. You can make a really strong case that you take that. Just take it and put it aside. It's in your account, leave it there. Then you can react and back a Kuta later, or you can back both. Because Greg, for every scenario I can think of, apart from them both galloping away, one of the two will win. And there's maybe 10% window there for a Republican Party or Krug or Old Town Road. There's a little window, but I don't think it's very big. So you can say to yourself, if I can get 2.5, 2.6, and I can get $4, which is a good boost, does that make sense? Yes, it does. Who do I actually like out of the two to win? Because I'm more sure a Kuta will step away safely, it is him. If they both step comparable and are in similar positions, Greg, I think there's nothing between them. And that's a huge compliment to Swayze, because I think a Kuta is getting to Lazarus light levels. He's not Lazarus, but then again, Swayze's not Tiger Tara yet. Maybe they'll be a bit closer to that about 5:30 on Tuesday.
Yeah, great analysis there, Michael. Excuse me, as we move now to the other contenders, starting with the third favourite, Old Town Road. Been a challenging time for trainer John Dickey, who part owns, but he came to Addington Raceway last Friday, and I got a chance to not only watch him, but get John's reaction after the workout. John, in all your years of training, I'm picking this week's has been as big a challenge as any.
Yeah, it has. It has, Greg. Just little things out of your control that you can't, you don't wish it on anyone, and it's happened to my best horse, but unfortunately that's the way it is. But he is well, I can inform everyone. He hasn't missed any work, albeit it's just a skin irritation, but it has spread, and unfortunately it's spread onto my other horse as well. So, but I think we're under control now.
All right, tell me about his work this morning. You worked alongside Manhattan. He looked to be absolutely flying at the end. What sort of times did you run?
Yeah, he was, Greg. I deliberately hooked him out of the court and just sat beside Bob. He needed to do a little bit of work today. They both paced home in 3.5, tick under 59, 26 quarter flat, and he was good. The best thing about his work, Greg, was past the post and down the back. He took me all the way to the back straight to pull him up. So I'm very, very pleased with that, and so I'm sure come Cup Day you'll see the best horse on the day. All
right, what about barrier draw wise? Wide front row, were you happy with that?
Well, initially I wanted to be in. Everyone tells me it's the best place to be out there a wee bit. Last year he actually was out. I think he must have drawn the same barrier, Greg. I could be pretty close to it anyway, and he began real good, but unfortunately he drew outside copy that, and he went forward. We couldn't go forward because he was never going to hand. But yeah, the same scenario that happens this year. I'll be wrapped just to get away as cleanly as he did last year anyway.
So, Michael, he is obviously a lot happier than he was 4 or 5 days earlier, and the infection has cleared up. But all my experience tells me when you're at the highest level, you don't need any hiccups. And John would tell you, who is walking a fine line trying to get this horse at his absolute peak for the big dance anyway.
Well, that video you showed to open the show, Greg, spoke about the Cup winners this century. Well, I can only think of one who had a real setback and came back and won the Cup, and that was just an excuse. It doesn't happen very often. So you don't want that. He's fast enough to get away with it, but it's a less than ideal preparation, and you're up against 2 horses who have had an ideal preparation. I think if he blasts the tapes early and gets to the marker pegs and follows the right horse, yes, he can win. He is part of that 10% window, Greg. I think he's probably the 3rd best horse in the race. He might even end up being the 2nd best horse in the race. I don't know. But I just don't think the timing and everything you just spoke about with John has worked out perfectly for this Cup. Yes, he can win, but he would be aided if one or both of those 2 favourites had bad luck or got something wrong, Greg, because he hasn't shown yet. He's showing glimpses, but he hasn't shown yet. He is superior to Akuta and Swayze, and with an inferior preparation, he's going to need that superiority to come over top of them.
Yeah, 6th in the race last year. The Kentuckiana team only had 1 last year. His name was Krug. This year, they've got 2. Republican Party has drawn to the inside, and this is him in the Lamb and Haywood Canterbury Classic, getting through and beating Akuta. Akuta was fresh up and was outstanding. Post-race, we'll hear from co-trainer Crandell Getty about where Republican Party is at.
McAndrew Aviator coming after him. Republican Party the far side. It's Republican Party for the Canterbury Classic. Republican Party beat Akuta. McAndrew Aviator and Crew.
Cran Republican Party's preparation has been pretty faultless.
Yes, he's fallen into place good. He's had a few placings, and he actually won a race against the main 3 floors. So, yeah, we'd like to say we're in the top half mix. How it unfolds on a big day, we don't know, but we're happy where we are.
What about his final run? What did you make of that? It was never going to be easy, and he did some work. How did he bounce out of that?
Well, I, along with all the general public, watching the race, thought it looked like just a fair run. But when we take in consideration of the wet track that particular night, and all the horses that mid-race moved didn't fulfil, and looking at a lot of other horses didn't do that. And so when we look up his times and what he'd done, taking in summary, he's actually gone 20% better than I probably thought he'd good looking at the race.
All right, if you wanted to select a barrier, was it close to what you got?
Gregory Ayres, who's one of the shareholders, is a very, very lucky racing enthusiast, and he said he's going up to pick number 3, and that he did.
Yeah, pretty lucky bloke. Cran and Chrissy have a second runner. His name is Krug. Here was his signature performance in free-for-all company, winning the Ascot Park Hotel Invercargill Cup. He was dominant on this occasion for young gun driver Carter Dalgetty. He got barrier 4 last year. He's got the same this year. What's the young man think of his mate's chances?
Krug beats Selfish short. McAndrew Aviator, a great run 3rd.
Carter, you got barrier 4 again?
Yeah, same as last year, so it's pretty familiar territory.
What are you made of his build-up runs? And he's a different horse to what he was last year. He's had a completely different prep.
Yeah, it's well, the good thing is everything's gone to plan, touch wood, and we mapped out the races that he's had now, and we haven't had to do anything different or unexpected. So yeah, it's gone. There's such thing as perfect.
Kaikoura run was good, and all importantly, he stepped quickly.
Yeah, that was probably the most pleasing thing, especially getting the front row barrier. I think if we can begin like that, it'll put him in a pretty nice spot. But yeah, he did still need that run at Kaikoura, so he's trained on far, far better. So yeah, what you'll need to be. All right, he's drawn right alongside Republican Party, of course, who you know so well. But who do you fear in the race? Oh, I think it's pretty clear. Swayze and Akuta will be put into the race at some point, and horses that are on the front end, they've sort of got a decision to make. But you know, Old Town Road's a very fast horse with a nice trip, and I think Republican Party will love the 2 mile. So yeah, it's probably not as cut out. It's probably not a really 2-horse race like everybody thinks, but I think it'll be pretty genuinely run.
Absolutely, it will be, Michael. How do you rate Republican Party and Krug?
Well, I tell you what, Greg, if it was a hair-growing competition, the Dalgiddies would win. What magnificent heads of hair both father and son have.
Yes.
So, it's not a hair-growing competition. It's a 2-mile standing start race. And when you watch those videos, here's what we know. Not my guesswork, not your opinion. Here's what we know. Republican Party can beat a Cooter. He's done it a couple of times. These guys can train. They've trained horses to beat all-stars, good horses, quite a few times in the Cargill Cup last year. These guys know how to win 2-mile standing starts, and Blair Orange, who drives Republican Party, knows how to win New Zealand Cups. He's won 3 of them. So they know how to do this. They're not trying to learn any new tricks on Tuesday. They have the potential, a little bit of potential, to maybe go forward and try and lead and trail. That gives them both a chance. They are the other 2 clear horses alongside Old Town Road, Greg, who sit in that 10, maybe 15% window of other winning chances in the race, in my opinion. Either of them could win. I actually think Krug might have a slightly better chance, even though the market doesn't see it that way. But if either of those horses won, I wouldn't be stunned, Greg, because they don't need to prove they can do this. The video evidence is there.
This horse does need to prove it. His name is Beach Ball. He got the last spot effectively with his last start win. Doesn't get hooked out by Ricky May, the 7-time Cup winning driver on this occasion. BD Joe in front. Let's hear from his caretaker trainer in Benny Hill, still in the Kevin Chapman colours, of course.
Really nice down the outside. He'll get second just on Beach Ball.
Benny, since we last spoke, the decision makers allowed you into the field and you've done exactly what you wanted to do. Give them a run at the trials today.
Yeah, the gap was just too big to do nothing, and that was quick enough. That was just nice, and Ricky said he felt strong and he was good with that cart on. Really good. So now it's just about managing him, keeping him ticking over, and just, Tuesday's around the corner real soon. But he's had a little blow, which is nice, but yeah, it's good.
And importantly, a few hours ago, he came up with a reasonable barrier draw. I would have thought 5 into 4 would be pretty close to where you'd want it.
Yeah, it's maybe a bit wider if I got really down to it, but hey, I'm not going to moan. Yeah, we'll take that draw, and he was really good today. I know there's only 3 up there, but even the other night he was good, and today he was really good. He wants to be there and he wants to do it, which is a big help for us.
Different for you too. We go back 12 or 13 years. You were winning back-to-back cups with the Mighty Monkey, and I know he's a totally different horse, but it's exciting, isn't it?
Oh, it's exciting. It's exciting for Kevin too. And Barb and the family. Like he's done a lot of work. With this horse to be where he is. I'm just doing the final little stuff. So it's exciting. It's a different exciting, but still exciting. Obviously, it's really cool to have me. I feel really lucky.
What about the wee man with the gold cap? 7-time winner of the race. What sort of vibe is he giving you?
He's happy. I know he's happy. Like he was happy enough today. He was really happy the other night. He's happy with today, and I think we know each other pretty well. That he's not growling me or moaning, so it's a good thing.
They're great mates, Benny Hill and Ricky May. That cup trial was won by BD Joe, and I got a chance to catch up with his pilot, Tim Williams. Well, a cup trial win with only one cup contender going against you. Tell me, how did you feel?
Pleased, Greg. Obviously, yeah, good to have him back at the track, and he got a little bit excited at the start, but handled himself well and mustered up early speed. So it's going to be crucial from the draw come Tuesday. It looks a nice draw for where we're at this stage, and hopefully we can step back clean on Tuesday. Yeah, inside second row follows out Pembroke Playboy, and while he's generally a pretty handy sort of beginner, so it's not the worst. No, I think it's ideal. Like you say, it's shortest way home on the fence, so hopefully Nath doesn't go without us at the start. So inside second row draw for BD Joe. What about Mossdale Ben, the horse named after Ben Hope, giving him a chance to have a drive in the great race? I talked to him at the trials as well. Well, if you wanted to pick a barrier draw, I reckon 7 would be about it.
Absolutely, yep. No, it's, as we know, the 2 mile start, it is good to be a little bit wide, and we've got that. So, yeah, couldn't be happier.
All right, in terms of his preparation, he got qualified nice and early, so you were able to pick a path rather than that be dictated to. Have you been happy with each and every run?
Yeah, I have been. Yeah, probably there was one run at Addington that he was probably a little bit disappointing when he got 5th or 6th that night, but every other run he's been good. His last run was super, the Kaikoura Cup, so his work's been strong. I do think he'll be a better horse this time next year because it is his first taste in open class, but look, if he steps away good and gets a good trip, he's not out of it as a place prospect.
Who do you fear the most?
I think Akuta. Obviously, I've been impressed by Swayze. You know, the Jason Grimson, Cameron Hart factor is obviously, you've got to fear them. But I think Akuta, he's been pretty awesome. So, yeah, I think it'll take a pretty special performance to beat him.
So Ben Hope there with an opportunity, Michael. Of those three, Beach Bull, BD Joe, and of course Mossdale Ben, who's got the best chance?
Well, the only one with a Group 1 victory is BD Joe, and he's the most proven in open class, but the second line draw really hurts him, I think. So Mossdale Ben could finish top 4 without shocking me. The Beach Bull improvement curve, we just don't know how much steeper it can get, but does have a trainer and a driver we know can win cups. Mossdale Ben probably because of his manners. BD Joe, I don't like the prep or the draw. And Beach Bull, I think this time next year, Greg, we're going to have a significantly better New Zealand Cup winning chance in him.
All right. In one then, I know you've given a great summation around Akuta and Swayze, a 50-50 flip of the coin if they have equal opportunities. I need to know your top tip.
It's Akuta because I think he's more chance of stepping away. This is a very new experience for Swayze. He's never seen a crowd. There's going to be a big crowd there. So Akuta on top for me, but crucially, punters, I don't want you losing your money. You can back both, and this is going to come down to the start. So Akuta for me, Greg, very clearly Swayze is comparable and actually a better bet because he's paying more, and I think there's quite a big gap back to the next. I'm Akuta on top. Who do you like in the IRT New Zealand Cup for 2023?
Yeah, Akuta for me, just ahead of Swayze, but there's a string of them for third and fourth, I believe, Michael, and the TAB offering a guaranteed $200,000 first four for you to get involved in. That's a look at the IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup. As we go to a break, almost 50 years ago, the only free-legged pacer to win the great race was Rob Allen. I got a chance to catch up with Margot 9 as their family had that big day back in 1974. Margot, I guess at this time of year you always get a little bit nostalgic given the 9 family history in the Cup.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, hey, there is a lot of history there. I mean, it's a great time of year for everybody anyway, but yeah, I mean, you kind of think, oh, you know, hey, you know, Johnny Globe, Lordy, Robbie, and yeah, no, you just, it does. You do think this is, you know, fantastic time of year.
Rob Allen's the horse we're going to focus on. It's coming up 50 years since he won the Cup, and you've got a unique connection with the horse because the year he won the Cup, that was the same age you were. Yeah, no, we were both born in 66, so I always kind of felt like I had a special bond with him. And Alan Jeffrey, you know, who's obviously, you know, part owned him, he used to train at Cecil Devine's when he came up here, and when Pete and I got together, you know, I'd be there helping out Pete and Smoke, and I always remember Alan saying he used to come up to visit, you know, say cup time or something, and he said, I could not believe you. He said, you'd be biking around on a trike. Yeah, I mean, obviously younger than 7 at that stage, but he said, I'd be riding around the barn on a trike behind Robbie pulling his tail, and he said how he never used to, you know, because he's a bit nutty too, so, but he said you just couldn't believe it, how he never killed me, you know, like, yeah, me and my trike and pulling his tail, so yeah. He'll always have a special place in history, being the only free-legged pacer to win the Cup. The stories that your mum and dad would have told you, why did he end up not racing in hobbles? Mum tells the story more often than Dad, because it was her that Dad was away in Auckland one time and Mum went out to work him and she left the hobbles out. I don't know whether she's just going to give him canter, but he worked sensational, and, you know, Dad came back from Auckland and said, oh, we need to race him without the hobbles, you know, and, you know, so they tried it, and then he was successful, and then I think they had Interdoms in Christchurch, and Dad decided, oh, he'd put the hobbles back on, and it was just a flop, so off they came for good. Yeah, and that was that. Throughout his career, when you go back through his race history, he basically either won or he was unplaced. Yeah. So he obviously had a bit of a trait. Well, I mean, early on particularly. Yeah, you know, and interestingly enough though, he did actually race from a lot of stands as well. So right. I mean, hey, you get it wrong with no hobbles on trying to pace, so I guess you're screwed from the beginning, aren't you? But he just had such brilliance, you know, like he had just unbelievable speed. Like, you know, Dad always used to say, like, he
you know, couldn't even imagine what he would go over in America,
Yeah.
you know, at that stage. And I mean, hey, you know, they go 46 and that now, but he said he just had unbelievable speed.
Yep, 39 from 119, but the 74 Cup. What are your memories of that? You were there.
I was there, yes, yeah, we were allowed the day off to go, and I can't really remember a whole lot about the day. I mean, obviously him winning, but I remember Mum and Dad that night, you know, going out for dinner with Turt and Carol Oldfield, you know, Rick Oldfield's dinner, and off they went to the White Heron, which, you know, would have been probably the flashiest, you know, place, and that, I mean, that was their celebration, and I always remember that. We went round to Oldfield's and I guess had a babysitter or just hung out on our own, but yeah, that's where they headed off to the White Heron for the big celebration.
Yeah, and your dad had a share in the horse, as did Greg Hope's father, Peter.
Yeah, that's right. Originally Alan Derby and Bob Pollock owned it, and Bob Pollock wanted out. I think he was a taxi driver, but I'm not completely sure, but he wanted out, but wanted 30 grand for his half share, which was a huge amount of money, obviously, back in those days, and Dad wanted to buy it, but couldn't afford that, so he rang Peter Hope, who he's good friends with, and said, oh, Blue, do you want to come in on a good horse? And the rest is history.
Yep, and the history's all on your wall here at the Templeton stable, so you've been lucky enough to hold on to that. Beside you, you've got Lordship's 2 Cups from the 60s, which obviously your dad drove to win those as well. So yeah, it's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it was just an absolute fluke, the old wall, because when we started cleaning out the stables, I saw this hood, and I thought, frig, I reckon that was Robbie's. And then if I hadn't have, we could have thrown out most of the stuff, and then I started thinking, oh. So then I started looking for something. I thought, yep, that was Robbie's. Dad never threw out anything. That was Robbie's bridle, and that was, yep. So I thought, I'm going to put this on the wall.
Yeah.
It was quite funny. I was telling somebody one day when I was doing it, and I won't mention who he was because he said, if you ever tell anybody, I'll kill you. I said, oh, I found Robbie's stuff and I'm putting it on the wall. He said, what, you even found the hobbles?
Yeah.
And then he's like, don't you ever.
Well,
yeah.
It's a special place in history. Of course, he won 3 New Zealand free-for-all, set 4 world records, and yeah, for your mum and dad, and your dad in particular. Now he's gone, I guess there's more nostalgia with it.
Yeah, it is. Again, when it's happening, it's great, but you don't realise probably how special it is at the time. You know, you look back and you think, you know, that really was special. But yeah, no, and especially once, like you say, once Dad's gone, once family starts passing, you know, you do realise really how important those times and how special they were.
And how special New Zealand Cup Day is.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, it is. Changed, but it has to change because of the times. I mean, back in the day, there was no TV, no trackside, and the crowds, I mean, you see the pictures on the wall, you know, and the crowds are just unbelievable, you know.
Yeah, special time for you and your family.
Yeah, definitely.
Welcome back into your IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup special, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. On Tuesday, we had a huge occasion at Addington Raceway. Yes, it was Melbourne Cup Day, but of course it was the Katie Cox Luncheon, part of the appeal that has been running since this awful news came out about this young lady who's touched so many in the industry, and I got a chance to sit down with her late last week to talk about that, what it was like to have all of these people supporting her at the luncheon, and indeed the whole appeal, and find out how she's handling what is a pretty tough time in her life. Katie, just when things were starting to go on the upward spiral, I suppose, horses-wise, you received some pretty average news.
Yeah, that certainly came as a surprise to me, you know, probably more so than anyone, like to have a bit of a cough and it be something as serious as what they tell me I've got. Yeah, it's not ideal.
No, it hasn't been ideal, but I know you've been absolutely touched by this industry, because I reckon you wouldn't have had any idea of how many people out there have got time for you.
Oh, just absolutely incredible, like blown away. The harness racing industry has just been so good to me. You know, people have been so kind, and Yeah, and even the galloping, the galloping industry as well, like everyone from inside, inside and outside the industry, but, the harness racing community, certainly when you need a bit of help, they do step up and they're there. It's, incredible.
Look, you're pretty private, you're pretty quiet sort of a person, you're not someone that likes the public attention, but it's just become part of your life, and I know you wanted to thank so many people for what they've done, to Craig Wiggins and Ricky May and Bruce Taylor have put together the fund, the Katie Cox Fund, to try and help you get the treatment that you need, because without them it wouldn't be possible. No, that's for sure. So grateful to them, you've been wonderful to do that, to sort of set it up in the way that they have, and they were the ones that probably were quite keen to do it when I was, a wee bit hesitant, but doing what everyone's done for me has actually allowed me to start on this treatment that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to access. So, okay, a lot of people are asking, how are you going and what is the prognosis? What have the doctors told you, certainly initially, and how's the first couple of weeks on the drug been? Yeah, so it's exon 20, like a lung cancer sort of thing, which is, it's quite a rare sort of mutation within the cells that enters the cells at some time in your lifetime. It's not sort of something you're born with, so but there's no exact known cause. I've never smoked, never vaped, never, to be honest, I thought it'd be, didn't even think I could get something like this, but so I've started, there was unfortunately nothing, is normally discovered in people that generally at quite an advanced sort of a stage, so there was nothing that they could really offer, other than the very basics through the public system that was, whereas through the private system there is a drug that I've started on, Tagrisso. It's and so that's it's a target drug, and it's sort of about 120,000. That is one of the cheapest option that there was for me, and so I've been on that for about 2 weeks now, and to be honest, after the 4th or 5th day I was coughing a lot less and chest was actually clearer, I could breathe a bit better, so hopefully that's a good sign. And so how long do you stay on that, and what happens post? So you pretty much stay on that for as long as you can. So the thing with what I've got, it does mutate and makes the drug, it becomes drug resistant. That's sort of the thing with it. So some people, I'm lucky enough it's obviously doing something now, so I just got to hope that I can stay on this one as long as I can. But at the point where there's progression or then I'll have to look to go into something else, which there is another drug, but it's I think it's actually about 200,000 for every 3 months at the moment, and it's obviously not funded at all in New Zealand. But so you get a scan at some point? So after 3 months you get a scan, and then I guess they assess how it looks on there. You sort of have blood tests every month before that, and you go and see the oncologist at St George's. And I've been very lucky, everyone in the medical sort of field, they've been as quick as possible to probably diagnose what I've got, so I'm certainly grateful to that. And there are trials, different trials coming up, and they're working so quickly, and they've progressed so much overseas on the things that they have. At this stage it's something that's hopefully treatable, not curable, at this stage, but hopefully if you can hold it, well, things are coming out all the time. All right, there's still a few horses on the property, but no racehorses. You're missing them? Oh, I am. I really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved what I did. It was pretty busy and pretty flat out between the racehorses and the yearling sales horse and everything. But I was very fortunate. I had a good team of staff behind me and great support and great owners and everyone. But no, I'm sure that will come back when I get myself sorted. Yeah, your star pacer, it's tough. The Welcome Stakes winner. I see him at the trials with Colin and Julie De Filippi, which I suppose is a bit of a step back, given that you spent some time there. No, I knew Colin and Julie, be well looked after there, and Colin's such a capable horseman that he'll get every chance there, and well, the challenges you've got ahead, I can see you taking them head on, and I know the industry's right behind you, Katie, so all the very best. Oh no, thank you so much, Greg, and just want to say a massive thank you too to Addington Raceway for allowing the luncheon sort of to be put on and all their help, and to you, Greg, it's incredible what you've done is and everyone else, just can't thank people enough. Well, whilst the circumstances aren't great, Michael Guerin, how the industry's got behind this young lady has been quite remarkable, and I'm so grateful to have caught up with her earlier in the week to find out how she's going, more importantly, how this fun's going, because it's up to $300,000.
Remarkable. The real story of Cup Week, Greg. Congratulations to you as one person and all those other people who have been working with Katie and alongside Katie and for Katie at this really important time. Important thing, Greg, we're heading to Cup Week and we're all in this together. There's only going to be one winner on Tuesday, but you can still have a laugh, you can still be kind to people, you can still be positive about things, because if Katie Cox can do it at the moment, so can the industry. So let's go there on Tuesday and have some fun. And Katie, everybody is thinking about you, but to everybody who's contributed, Greg, they have lots to be proud of.
Yeah, and of course, the team behind Millwood Nike have given her a virtual driving fee. So let's have a look at the Group 1. Here we go from the trials. Winning at Ashburton, that's her on the outside of Don't Stop Dreaming. She went to the Cup trials, of course, and we'll get Mark Purdon's thoughts on that very shortly, but she just covers the ground so beautifully. She's 15 from 15, and she starts from barrier 15, of course, on Tuesday. Let's hear from her driver, Mark Purdon.
Wheels of Fortune, buckskin, only a couple of lengths over.
Mark, Millwood Nike missed that Neville heat at Ashburton, went back to the trials there and went very well. What about the last trial where you had Don't Stop Dreaming in with her? It was a deep race, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, well, we've been into the town just because of the wet track here, Greg, and they've worked a little harder than I've probably had them down to work, so we just went to that trial and gave them a quiet run, and they've pleased me with their work, and I think they're both in a good place.
All right, it's not going to be easy for her to remain unbeaten, and Mantra Blue, another that's drawn on the second row, is probably the one to beat.
Yes, yeah, I'd probably IRT by the Seaside's one, I think, from a number 2 will take a lot of beating too, so yeah, a couple of very good fillies there, and it's not going to be easy, but we know she's got the ability to overcome things and still be very hard.
And you've got Amora Adfidia in there as well with a wide front row draw.
Yeah, well, she'll probably need a little bit of luck. She could have done with a favourable draw just to help her chances.
And of course, Cam Hart takes the reins on Amora Infidia. The big challenger, though, is Mantra Blue. This is her getting the job done, Michael Guerin, beating Sweet Coco on a wet track at Addington. She's done nothing but continue to improve. So what's your summation of her and of the Neville finals?
Well, it feels like a mini cup or the junior free-for-all. It feels like a 2-horse race plus some, because IRT by the Seaside's really good as well. I think Millwood Nike will move around mid-race and be parked by the 1,000 or before the 800. And then you're going to say, can she run away and beat IRT by the Seaside, who may have a better run? The rest of them don't bother me too much, apart from Mantra Blue, and does Zachary move before her and try and get her back? There's lots of question marks about them, but I don't question where Millwood Nike is going to be. I think outside the leader, starting the last 1,000. You're getting $2. I think it's worth backing her at $2 because she's so good and she has the best putting the polish on her. But she is obviously vulnerable, Greg, for a bunch of reasons, and because we don't know how good Mantra Blue is, and IRT by the Seaside's going to cover somewhere between 6 and 8 lengths less than her. So vulnerable, but at $2, you're getting a fair price to find out.
Yeah, IRT by the Seaside, $7 into $5.50, $3.50 the price around Mantra Blue, and flip of the coin odds for the unbeaten filly Millwood Nike. Let's have a look at the Woodland Sires Stakes. Here's Cold Chisel. Couldn't have gone better in this race, Michael. Sitting parked in the hands on this occasion of ace reinsman Tony Herlihy. Gets up and beats Vesem here. He's got to come off the second row too in this size, but a number of winners have come from that position in this great race.
They have, and more importantly, depends on the speed early. There's horses like Vesem who can go forward, and if they get an easy lead, they may well win. But there's horses like La Major who won't want that happening. If they burn early here, and of course, Mark Purdon, the co-trainer, has chosen to drive the horse drawn the Ace rather than Chase a Dream. If they burn early with all those horses in play, then Cold Chisel and or Chase a Dream can come over the top. Tempo is absolutely crucial here because Greg, put the shoe on the other foot, the horseshoe. If, for example, Vesem rolls across to the front and La Major's sitting on its back, then you've got two really good horses lead trail, and are they going to be handing up to a Cold Chisel? No. Are they good enough to sit parked outside them and beat them? Maybe no. Tempo, everything in this race, Greg. Probably Cold Chisel on top for me, but this is a race I'm going to enjoy. I'm not sure yet, Greg, what I'm going to do with the betting. That betting and these betting markets will change enormously in the last 5 minutes. The horse who's going to need to swoop is the horse we're seeing here. So here's two of the favourites. Here's Chase a Dream, second from the outside. Outside it is La Major, who I thought was only okay. Chase a Dream gets the driver of the spring, Olivia Thornley. Here's Mark's thoughts on the two-year-olds.
Mark, a four-pronged attack on this year's Sire Stakes and what has been a very even series.
Yes, that's right, Greg. There's nothing really stands out, and I think probably the draws even things out a lot.
Is your number one seed Chase a Dream, and has he got the worst barrier, although we've had a few winners from there?
Yes, he would be number one, I'd say, and he's got the worst barrier too.
Yeah. What about Major Hot, inside draw, and Vesam? I see you put the blinds on.
Yes, yeah, well, Vesam's probably just been a little bit, maybe a little bit disappointing, but in saying that too, things just haven't gone 100% for him. So we put the blinds on, he trialled with them on and seemed good and keen with them on, so we've gone with that.
So that's 3 of the All-Stars chances, but of course Mark has chosen to drive We Walk by Faith. Mark, you've chosen to drive We Walk by Faith. Is there anything behind that, or was it more a case of, well, you had 4 in, so you had to drive one of them?
Yes, that's right, and Olivia's handled the other horse twice for 2 wins, so she's got a great record on him, and she's driving well at the moment, so it was an easy decision, really.
Yeah, what does this little horse tell you, though? He's got a bit of a future, hasn't he? Is he there yet, though?
Yeah, well, he's probably still on the way up, Greg. He's, you know, from the draw, I'd say he's probably a good chance to run in 4 if he gets the right run, and the way he got out of the gate last week for Devon, he'll take a handy spot and have his chance.
Is he the big improver of your team in terms of the 2-year-olds?
Yeah, I think so, Greg. He's probably still on the way up too, so you know, I could see in another 3 months he's going to be a fair, nice little horse.
So that's a good look at the 3 Group 1s on IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup Day. The TAB Junior Free-for-All looks a cracking contest. Here's that cup trial that we talked about earlier. Artie's Express outside the leader getting the job done. Merlin ducking to the inside. Further back in the field, you see Mark Purdon with Don't Stop Dreaming. Now, both he and Millwood Nike, who Olivia Thornley's driving there, third to last. Went to Addington on Monday, Michael, because we had a lot of rain and they probably worked a little bit harder than what the All-Stars wanted on that occasion. So 2 days later, they basically just went round. Who are you tipping between Merlin and Don't Stop Dreaming, and how important will this race be leading to the Garrards Derby on the 10th of December?
It'll mean nothing for the Derby, but it'll mean something for the punters this week. I think Merlin gets the chance to go forward and maybe use his speed, whereas Don't Stop Dreaming's going to need to get past Merlin, and Zach Butcher won't want that happening. So I'll go Merlin, but with no great conviction. Again, Gregory, you can make a very strong percentage-based case. You can back them both, and particularly if one of them gets boosted on the day by the TAB, because I'll be stunned if one of these 2 very good 3-year-olds, who are both cup horses, I'll be stunned if one of the 2 doesn't win, Greg.
The Hornby Liquor Centre Worthy Queen is part of the $100,000 guaranteed terminating pick 6 on the day, and it's a tricky race, 2,000 metre standing start. Let's have a look at Mystic Max, back in winning form. That's him in the trail behind Artie by the Hill, who's a race rival on Tuesday. Gets home here and wins nicely for owner Michael Purdon, who also trains, and of course Blair Orange. Still not trotting absolutely perfectly, but he's a quality performer. He comes up with barrier 2. His standing start manners are invariably pretty good. That was Oscar Bonavina storming home out wide. Time Up the Hill to his inside is also in the race and as well in the market. You've got the pair of Phil Williamsons, the Rowe Cup winner Lovin' the Port, and the winner of this race last year, Majestic Man, who starts off 10 metres. I spoke to Phil Williamson about his 2 charges. He said, I rate them both. He said they're both trotting really well. Of course, Majestic Man came and beat Oscar Bonavina last year in this race, coming from off the speed, which is not normally his modus, but he'll get a great chance. He's a very good standing start exponent. So when you look at the market, this is one of the tricky legs of that pick 6. 380 Mystic Max, 480 Time Up the Hill. Lovin' the Port, definitely backable at $7, and Majestic Man at $5. Artie by the Hill's the enigma in the race. Not sure what to do with him. John Dunn's at a bit of a loss as well. Comes up with barrier 1, so he's going to need to step really quickly. I think the best each way in the race is Lovin' the Port. He hasn't had a whole lot of luck. If he gets somewhere near the speed, I absolutely think he is the best each way. So that's the Hornby Liquor Centre Worthy Queen, part of the undercard, if you like, at Addington on Tuesday. But it's a tricky race. Take as many as you possibly can. All right, on the undercard, one pick. What's your best outside of the group races?
Confessional has a special boot or boots on it that Paul Nean's made himself. I would hate to think how this has gone, but long story short, he's put them on. The horse worked on Friday morning and trotted better in these special boots. He explained it to me. I'm not going to explain it to you, but what I am going to tell you is 3.6 or 3.8 is fine for him. I could go on all day, Greg, because I've loved the form. It's a great punter's day. You've asked me for one. His name is Confessional.
Yep, and I'll go Masterly in the first. He's been heavily back since opening at $4.50. I think he'll lead, and if he does, he'll take all sorts of beating. High of 24, Norwester. We could be on for a record in the IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup. Michael, appreciate you going through everything with us on the show. It's going to be a magnificent day. Go to tab.co.nz. A plethora of options for you to get involved in. Michael, looking forward to catching up with you on the day. So to the connections of all runners at Addington Raceway on Tuesday, congratulations. It's such a big thing to have a horse running on the day. I haven't experienced it myself, but I can only imagine what that would be like. And all importantly, to those who have a chance in the $750,000 120th running of the IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup. The connections of the likes of McAndrew Aviator, Stephen Boyd having a chance in the race. His young son Sam is such a big fan of this horse and picked out his barrier at the function on Wednesday. Or American Me, so many of the connections, been in the game all their lives, just wanted a chance to have a shot at the great race. It's wider than that. There's 15 runners in the big one, and we wish you all the very best of luck as we do all of the runners on this amazing race day. And that has been your IRT Box Seat New Zealand Cup special. See you later. The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Harness Link, for all your worldwide harness racing coverage. Brecken Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred. IRT, it's your horse and our passion. Garrard's Horse and Hound. Lincoln Farms. Renwick Farms. Harness Racing New Zealand. The clubs, Auckland, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton. And the TAB.